But what's missing is that actually, okay, is there a benefit that's greater than harm in certain age groups? But we can indirectly answer that in a second. So that was the original trial. So on average, it was more harmful than beneficial, okay? But even before talking about all age groups, Steve, a 1 in 800 harm rate for a vaccine is completely unacceptable in the sense that we have pulled other vaccines in the past for much less harm. The swine flu vaccine was suspended globally because it was found to cause Guillain-Barré syndrome, a debilitating neurological condition, in 1 in 100,000 people. Rotavirus vaccine was pulled in 1999 because it was found to cause a form of bowel obstruction in children at 1 in 10,000. So you've already got a harm rate of 1 in 800, irrespective of, right? So that first and foremost should be a red flag to say, hold on, this is too much.
When they say harm rate, what's the range of definitions of harm?
Well, in this one, they categorize serious harm as it caused you to be hospitalized.
Yeah.
It caused a disability.
Okay.
Or something that was life-changing. Now, of course, that can incorporate lots of different things. But of those, and I spoke to the lead researcher, I know work with him on other things, 40% of those serious harms were actually related to clotting disorders like lung clots, heart attacks, etc.
I want to make sure I'm super clear here because I don't understand the data you're citing. So you're saying that they found 1 in 800 people would have serious harm or harm?
Serious harm.
Serious harm.
Serious harm.
1 in 800 people had...
In the trials. 1 in 800, yeah, 1 in 800, serious harm, right? Now, just to give you perspective so you can balance it out, just because this is important, it's a question you've asked is really important. We didn't have any good real-world data at that point on can we separate vaccinated from unvaccinated to look at what the hospitalization rate would be for COVID, for example, in people who took the vaccine versus the people that didn't, according to age group. That data in the whole world, the only country to make that data available was the UK. And they did that in the beginning of 2023, so January last year. And what did that show? After 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine, Steve, if you were over 70, so this is the highest risk group, you had to vaccinate 2,500 people to prevent one person being hospitalized with COVID.
And this was with the different strain, the Omicron strain, because the original strain was...
Yeah, it was, you're right, it was with the Omicron strain. So that was still, but it gave us a ballpark figure that even that, so it's like, so say a patient comes to me and says, Doc, what are the benefits of this drug as a prevention, whatever else? And I say to them, well, if you take this, there's a 1 in 2,500 chance it will help you, prevent you being hospitalized. I'll be honest with you, Steve, I mean, in medicine, in all the drugs I've used and all the data I know about different medications and heart disease, etc., that figure, I mean, it's a very serious issue, but that figure is a joke. I mean, there's nothing of that, of such poor. And then when you get to people under the age of, say, 50, you're talking about having to vaccinate maybe several 100,000 to prevent one
Is that relevant for the first strain of COVID as well? Because, or do we not have the data on that?
No, we don't have that data on that. We do, in my paper, which I published, actually, we did have some data on Delta. And if I remember correctly, the data on the over 70s, there's also problems with this a little bit because it's not corrected for other factors, such as socioeconomics, etc., risk factors of, might make people more vulnerable. So if I remember correctly from that paper, if you're over 70, that was about 1 in 250. Delta was the worst strain, actually. So about 1 in 250. Okay.
On the British Heart Foundation website, I'm sure you've read this. Just to read out what they say on there. It says that up to 1 in 10,000 people with the Pfizer vaccine might experience are at risk of myocarditis or pericarditis. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Yeah.
Up to 1 in 10,000 people for the Moderna vaccine. And it's not possible to estimate other vaccines because they're not frequently used in the UK. All 3 of these COVID-19 vaccines are mRNA vaccines designed to target the Omicron strain. And at the top of this, it says the risk of myocarditis or pericarditis after COVID-19 vaccine is very low. How do you respond to that? Do you think you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with it at all. I think there are a number of layers to respond to this. I think the first thing to say, Steve, is the British Heart Foundation, with the greatest respect to them, and they do a lot of good work, overall is still part of the so-called establishment, which has been blinded for years to actually even address so many issues on health when it doesn't suit the interests of Big Pharma.